welcome to the show.
Thank you, Terry, for having me. I'm excited to come and chat to you today.
Thanks. I'm excited about this too. I think we have so many parallels in our businesses. So I was really interested in having you on. But what I want to start with, because I noticed you do kinesiology and hypnotherapy, and I'm so
Correct.
curious about how you combine those in your work and
Mm.
how you work with your clients. So let's start there. Tell us about
Yeah.
that.
So I started off with kinesiology, right? So about 10 years ago, I studied kinesiology when I just had my kids. Like you do as a fresh mum, you go back to studying. And along the way, I started off helping babies sleep. I started off helping
Oh, wow.
women with gut health and a lot of physical ailments. And it's through working with the physical ailments that I realized that this is not about the body at all. This is about the stress that these people are under that's affecting their physicality. Right. And it was one day that I realized that it wasn't working as well as what it should. And I'm like, why? What's happening here with these certain people that we're not getting the quick, easy results that I know we should be getting out of this? And that's when I realized they were stuck in their mind. So kinesiology works really well from the energetics into the cellular, into the body, into the mind. But I needed a tool to work the other way. So I started off with NRT, which is really great for trauma-based PTSD, things like that. But I needed something a little bit extra to go a little bit, not deeper, but something that could be broadly used with a lot more people. And this is where hypnosis works really well. So I might start off a session with doing the energetics and helping the body's energy realign, and then finishing off with a hypnosis. And that really helps meet each other in the middle for quicker results. Because as you know, once we get that mind to see things from a different perspective, to create that shift, it helps adjust the body so much more quicker. So even if we're working on a gut health, that gut and the flora in the gut and the neural pathways that connect into the gut, they can all rebalance so much quicker because we're I was going to use the word attacking, we're approaching it from where the problem is, right? And the problem sometimes is just not in the gut itself. Well, when I say that, it's not related to food or what's chemically what's technically happening there, but it's the chemical reactions of the way that we're thinking and the stress that we're having that affects how the gut works.
Yeah.
And so as we were going along, I was working with actually a fellow kinesiologist, and I was working with her on her gut. And what we realized is that her health, as it improved, her business started to improve.
Amazing.
And I'm like, oh, what's happening here? This is so intriguing. So we decided to flip the switch, right? So we're like, all right, what happens if we work directly on the business? Like, we ask for external results and see what the body comes up with using kinesiology and muscle testing, and then utilizing that information into the hypnosis and what comes around. And she wanted an extra, she wanted 12 clients a week. She got 12 clients a week. She wanted more. We got her more. And that kind of led me to where I am today. Yeah. I'm working with entrepreneurial women to help them scale their business. So it's just amazing how it works. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so cool. So when you're working with your clients now, like what kind of problems are you solving with clients? What's your focus now?
Well, the high level problems is, how do I get more clients? How do I scale my business? This is where I am and this is where I want to be. right? I want to be
Right.
at consistent 10K months. I want to be at consistent 50K months.
Mm-hmm.
I want to reach the $1 million year, whatever it might be. So they're the high level problems. But when we
Yeah.
break this down to the problems that I see that they have that are preventing them or that they need to work through to close the gap, is things like, how will I be seen with more money,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yep.
How will I change? Am I worthy
Right.
of stepping into that world? Right? We
Mm-hmm.
have this preconceived idea that, 50K months is a different world, right?
Right.
And am I worthy of that world? Right? So it's knowing
Mm-hmm.
it's comparing ourselves to our previous version, and it's comparing ourselves to other people. Am I worthy of all of that? That's probably the biggest one that I
Yeah.
see. But then there's also
Mm-hmm.
the, how do I step away from my past? How do I heal what's happened so it doesn't affect me now in the way that I show up? Especially for women, like I work with a
Yeah.
lot of single mums. So
Oh,
part
wow.
of it gets to be, how can I earn money and release the
Mm.
resentment that I hold for how my ex should be supporting me, but is not?
Oof.
So
Yeah, that's huge.
in our mind, we've got these two parts at conflict, right? This part of, my husband
Mm-hmm.
should be supporting his children financially, so I don't want to
Mm-hmm.
have to work so much to do it all myself. And then the other side of it is, I want to be this financially free, independent woman that can fully support herself way and
Right.
beyond what the child maintenance needs to be. So
Yeah.
it's like, how can we build a business when we've got these two conflicting parts?
Mm-hmm.
And then we can also get
Yeah.
rid of the ex-husband. It's like, did how not technically, but like, it's almost like, how does what's my relationship with money based on how I grew up?
Right.
What did I see
That's
mum and
huge.
dad? Yeah. What did I
Mm-hmm.
see money around mum and dad? How did they perceive money? How did they perceive wealthy women or wealthy people? How did they perceive people that
Mm-hmm.
had less than them? How did they compare themselves
Right.
to people around them? But also, not only what did that mean for me, but how did they see me in conjunction with money? Do they see me as a burden? Do they see
Mm.
me as someone that's responsible? Because, especially with women, did you know that it was only in the 70s, I know here in Australia, that we were allowed to actually hold a bank account
Yeah.
as a single woman? Before that, we were not
Mm-hmm.
even allowed to have a bank account. So you can imagine the generational trauma that is subconsciously that we need to work through to go,
Yeah.
I am allowed to earn money. I am
Mm-hmm.
responsible. I can facilitate all of that,
Right.
right? What we see a
Yeah.
lot
And
as well is, especially in our generation, is
mm-hmm.
my dad had control of the money. Like, he earned all the money, major breadwinner.
Right.
So he would drip feed my mum money to look after the
Mm-hmm.
family. So I made that mean that women weren't good with handling money. So I make that
Oh,
mean that I'm
wow.
not good with
Yeah.
handling money. So if I'm
Mm-hmm.
not good with handling money, how can I earn a lot because I don't know how to handle it properly?
Right. Yeah.
Right. So it's not necessarily, as you would know, what actually went on, but what we made that mean and what we made that mean for us.
Right.
So it's helping
Yeah.
dig all this stuff up for these women and going like, what
Mm-hmm.
is technically in your way of you earning not only the money that you want right now, but the money that you're capable of earning in the future.
Right.
which is not capped,
Yeah.
right? Even if we are employed, the money that we're able to receive doesn't need to be capped. And
Mm-hmm.
it's through releasing all of these energetic, cognitive blocks that are in our way, we get to see different opportunities.
Yeah.
Business is just one of the models that we could have limitless possibilities with our earning capacity. But there are so many more. Not
Right.
all of us are cut out to be business owners, or not all of us want to be business owners.
Yeah.
But that doesn't
Yeah.
mean that your income is capped.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like creating an opportunity for you to see beyond what you know to be true right here, right now,
Yeah.
and doing that work.
Yeah, absolutely. So how do we, or how do you work, when you're working with clients, how do we move from what it is that, say, because I see this a lot with clients. It's like, this is what I know I can earn. This is what
Yes,
I'd like to earn. And I don't know how to move from here to here.
really good
So, and
question.
often it's like a lot of fear and a lot of uncertainty. And like you said, who will I be? What will happen? So how do we begin to make that shift?
I think the most important thing, Terry, is to understand what is the next best available goal, right?
Mm,
So if we're at zero,
right.
if we're just starting out, right, and we want to
Mm-hmm.
get, ideally, what do you want? Do you want a business that gives you the same income as what you were earning in corporate? May that be a six
Mm,
figure or multi six figure. Now, if we go from zero to six figures, the chances of your nervous system being regulated and your beliefs getting behind that is very slim. Right. So
right.
it's what is your next best goal? Most of the time, I take clients up by the $1,000 per month. And there's a
Nice.
certain barrier that they go, okay, no, we can do a 2K jump here. Okay, we can do a 5K jump here. Okay, I feel safe to do a 10K jump. But creating those increments, I find the growth is so much quicker than going from 0 to 10, 0 to 100.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So it's number one, it's creating those increments and then going, okay, give me 5 ways which you believe that money can come in. Right? And I just pick
Mm-hmm.
randomly 5. And the reason I do that is because once we do the energetic alignment, we work on the beliefs, the reality is that yes, it could come in this way, but it also could come in
Mm-hmm.
the other way, or it could come in this way,
Right.
right? I might get halfway through the month an idea, an intuitive hit that goes, oh, let's try this. And that's the
Yeah.
way it comes in, which at the beginning of the month we didn't know. So if we're fixated on it has to come through this way, we're really
Mm-hmm.
narrowing the opportunities that are available to us. And we don't see other opportunities. So I always say, give yourself five ways that it could come in, and then go this or something better, this or something better,
Yeah.
right? So that's number one.
Yeah.
It's like give yourself some strategy, because let's face it, we can have the best strategy in the world, and our mindset and our energy that's not aligned, and the strategy is
Mm-hmm.
not going to work. Or
Yep.
the other way around,
100%.
we can have the best mindset and we can be sitting on the couch expecting stuff to happen for us, when really we're missing those intuitive hits that
Yeah.
goes, go and do this, go and do that.
Mm-hmm.
You have to create the alignment between the strategy and the mindset, the strategy and the energy. So have
Okay.
the strategy. How do I need to get that extra $1,000 this month? How do I need to get the extra 5K?
Mm-hmm.
And leave it open, this or something better. And then it's, why don't I believe on a cognitive level, on a
Mm.
conscious level, why don't I believe that's possible? And list them all
Right.
down,
Yeah.
right? But the
Mm-hmm.
chances are we're going to miss some. And this is why I love kinesiology and muscle testing, because I can go, okay, if we're at 10K and we want to get to 11, the body knows the priority belief, the priority emotion, the priority imbalance that we need to rebalance, reshift to get that, to close that particular gap. So it's always good for me in the way that I work. It's always going to be an emotional value, because I believe emotions really shift, change our energy, change the way we think, and it's the core of a lot of our beliefs, right? Is our how we emotionally respond to things. So it's okay, what emotion do we need to shift? Where does it stem from? And how do we shift it? The body knows all that. Not cognitively, not consciously, but all that energy lies in our subconscious. It lies in our energy system. So that's where kinesiology is so brilliant for going, okay, it's self-doubt. It stems from 3 years old. It needs to be shifted this way, right? And that's when we go, okay, do we use something like meridian rebalancing, right, which is a very Chinese medicine way of rebalancing energy, or do we jump into a hypnosis? Your body knows the best way for you to rebalance. So it's not about me guessing it all. It's what do you need? And every single person is different. But there is, say, two main sets of emotions that come up with almost every one of my clients. That is trust, feeling supported, and self-worth.
Wow.
And I don't think we realize, Terry, how much perceived little instances as we were growing up affect us today.
Oh, for sure.
Right? And I always say it can be as little as you've done a beautiful painting, right, when you're 4 years old. You've done this masterpiece, or what you perceive to be an absolute masterpiece, and you show your mum in the middle of cooking dinner, right? She's like, oh, that's great, love, with such a dismissive tone, right? And so what happens inside of you? And it's all about perception. Some kids are like, yep, mum's busy, or yep, she said it was great. Some kids are like, oh my God, the way she said it was like, it's not good enough.
Yep.
Right? So does that mean I'm not good enough? And it's all these little pieces of trauma that add up over time. And all of a sudden we're in our 30s and 40s and putting out content for our business or showing up over here or here. And we have this underlying question of, am I good enough? Is this piece of content good enough? Am I dressed good enough? Do I look good enough? Am I knowledgeable enough? Right? So it's going back to that, 3-4-year-old self and going, well, that actually didn't mean that. But then there are times where it does mean that. And how are we going to process that?
Yeah.
Right? And it's the same. It's having the ability to let go, right? Because it's not now.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, for me, it's interesting. So you talk about that example of bringing home the painting. For me, it was a math test in the 3rd grade, 98%. And my dad said, where's the other 2? And it was like the amount of meaning that I attached to that of like 98's not good enough. If it's not 100%, it's not worth it. And all the layers and layers of meaning that I had built up over my life of what that meant. And now as an adult, I look back and I know that, I know how my dad meant it. And he meant it as like, everything can be improved. So like, how could it be even better? Like, didn't mean it as like, it's not enough, but just, how could you do even better? What did you get wrong? What do we need to work on? But my little mind made so many meanings out of it that I didn't even realize until I was studying NLP how much that one moment shaped me. where
Yes.
it's like such a vivid memory to this day. And I was in the third grade, and so much meaning was attached to that, that changed how I showed up in business, how I made my decisions, my ability to take risks, belief in myself, like so much out of that one little moment. When you think about how
Right.
many of those moments we have in childhood and how many different layers of meanings we attach to something, um, and most people have no idea. They just think that they are the way they are, or this is how
Yeah.
life is, without knowing it could be better or different.
That's a really good point that you just bring up there, because there's a majority of us don't believe we can change, don't believe change is even a
Mm-hmm.
thing, right? It's
Right.
like, and I used to be this way in my early 20s. But I just used to say, I'm a stressful person. And then
Oh,
it wasn't
wow.
until, and I get this a lot even in now in clinic, oh, my baseline of stress is always high. I'm just that stressed kind of person.
Mm-hmm.
And like, wow, we're tying an identity to us that's so healable, changeable, moldable. Like, I don't think we realize
Right.
how moldable of a character, a human we are.
Mm-hmm.
And even if we look at, jumping into different circumstances and events in life, whether we go to a wedding and a funeral and a birthday party and a concert, like,
Yeah.
we can bring different parts of us, different emotions to these
Mm-hmm.
different scenarios. It's like, well, if we can be elated here, and we can sit in sorrow here, and we can sit in guilt here, then that shows us how flexible we can
Yeah.
be. So, this
Right.
baseline that we're currently operating at, maybe that can
Mm-hmm.
change,
Yeah.
right? And I find it
Yeah.
really interesting how a lot of us, because it's normal for us, don't realize what our
Mm-hmm.
baseline is, right?
Yes.
And
Definitely. I
especially,
used to, oh, yeah. Yeah, I
no, go.
used to, like what you were saying about, you would say, I'm a stressful person. You thought that's how you were, or that's how you had to be. I used to like always say, I thrive under pressure. I do my best work under pressure. And then I realized one day it's because I didn't know how to do it differently. So I
Yes,
only knew how to perform under pressure. So I would create high pressure situations so that I could perform, because I didn't know there was another way. And I thought it
yeah.
had to be like that. Yeah.
And when you look at your
Yeah.
childhood, and it's like all
Mm-hmm.
this pressure that you used to get because you didn't have that 2%, it's
Yeah.
like, okay, I can do better because that's expected of me. So that nervous
Yes.
system tension is like, that's how I
Mm-hmm.
perform. So we
Yeah.
leave things till last minute. We think we procrastinate. Well, we're not procrastinating.
No.
We're just following the common formula of how we
Yeah.
operate. I need to
Mm-hmm.
wait until the stress is built up to a certain point until I
Yeah.
function. But what happens when we
Yeah.
start to regulate, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting because when we start to regulate, we end up giving ourselves more time. When we give ourselves more time, we enable the creativity part of us to seep in,
Yes.
not just the logic, because the logic in the masculine is all about do, right? Get it done,
Yep.
have the structure. But once we allow that feminine flow and creativity and intuition to come to the party and play as well, we end
Mm-hmm.
up with a much better result, because we're not
Yeah.
only doing, but we're having those creative juices flow along the way with it in life, because they always happen, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
like when our baseline is at a regulated level, like, those issues
It
can
don't
be moved
matter.
through, right?
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
when our baseline is really high, it's almost like every
Mm-hmm.
time a problem happens, it's like shit hits a fan,
Right.
right?
Yep.
So, I mean, that's a really good indicator to know how many times you might feel that you maybe could have handled things a little bit better,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
And it's interesting because we're in, term 4 of the kids' school right now. And
Mm-hmm.
term 4 is always, it's a little bit messy because the kids are tired. They've had a big year.
Yeah.
They're coming into the end. And so we can even see, like, kids are a really good example of this because when they're overloaded, they can't handle things as much as they used to. So
Yeah,
it's the
that's
same
right.
sort of thing, right? So when our baseline's too high, we have our little tanties a lot easier than what they
Mm-hmm.
would have.
Yeah, for sure.
So sometimes we
Yeah.
need to just dig a little bit deeper and, like, how do we bring that baseline down? What
Mm-hmm.
is the stress that's sitting under it? Because as we know, the stress has got
Right.
nothing to do with what exactly is happening around you right here, right now. But
Mm-hmm.
you have learned to respond from that level from years ago.
Yes.
So let's
Yep.
rewire the brain
Yeah.
so it can sit in a calmer state. Allow the
Yeah.
body and the mind to let go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now you had mentioned muscle testing.
Oh,
And
yes.
so I'm wondering if you can just like talk more about that, about how you use muscle testing and what it is, because everyone listening might not know what muscle testing is. So can you explain a little bit about that and how you use that with your clients?
Sure. So we know we have all these muscles in our body, right?
Mm-hmm.
They do two simple things: contract and release. Right?
Right.
Everyone here listening knows sometimes when they're stressed that their body tightens up. Most of us
Mm-hmm.
notice it in our shoulder and our back and our neck, right? Especially if we're
Yeah.
sitting in the wrong position, we've got so much stress. And some people feel it in their stomach, right? The nervousness, the
Yeah.
butterflies, when
Mm-hmm.
you're just about to go for an interview and you get all these tension in your stomach, the nausea feeling that you get in your
Yeah.
stomach sometimes under stress, right? So anytime our body's under stress, our muscles contract. So it's
Right.
up to us as kinesiologists to put stress on the body or perceive stress and to see how the body reacts. So physically, when I have someone physically here, we can literally test the actual muscle itself. 90%
Mm.
of what I do these days is online. So I tune into your energy and I use my own muscles as a surrogate to test for you.
Oh,
So
cool.
we can go, okay, in regards to you want consistent 50K months, what
Mm-hmm.
is the first priority for your body to work on? And then we go through, because there's more than just an emotional state. We've got chemical reactions in our body that can dysregulate us. We have
Yeah.
nutritional, we
Mm-hmm.
have emotional and structural, and also energetics, right?
Right.
Energetics can be anything from EMF to genetics to ancestral trauma, things like that. So
Yeah.
it's knowing what questions to ask the body to what answers you want back. So, and then
Okay.
going one step further, how does the body want to heal this? When you have a look at my chart on ways to heal the body, God, I'm going to say there's like 60, 70 different techniques that we can use to rebalance the
Wow.
body in either an energetic way, a cognitive way,
Mm-hmm.
a physical way, anything like that. So sometimes even changing your diet is what it needs. So it might, if you are gluten
Yeah.
intolerant, if you drink too much alcohol, if you have too much
Mm-hmm.
coffee, right? I mean, coffee's a
Right.
really good one, um, especially people that drink quite large coffees. And a lot of
Mm.
them, that affects your nervous system and how your nervous system responds, right?
Right.
So if you bring your coffee intake way down and even to nothing, you mentally function
Mm-hmm.
different. And
Yep.
that might be all it needs for you to see life differently.
Right.
So muscle
It's
testing
amazing.
enables us to tap into your body to see what you need to move forward.
Mm. Yeah.
So even when, what's a good way to do this one? Even
Mm.
when you pick up something, right? Sometimes it feels a
Mm-hmm.
little bit heavier than before. Like it could
Mm.
be a glass of wine, it could be a glass of water. Like sometimes things just feel different. And that's when your body
Mm-hmm.
goes, you know what? This is what you need, or this feels heavy because my muscles are
Yeah.
contracting as you're holding something that's creating a disconnect within you.
Right.
Same do you know when you meet people and there's something about them that is just not quite right, but you can
Yep.
feel it in your body and your body tenses up? It's
Mm-hmm.
like your energy is telling you that there is a disconnect happening here. This does not
Yeah.
feel good in my nervous system. Because when we look at it, every cell in our body, when we bring it down to the minute form, is created of 0.001% matter, and what surrounds that
Mm-hmm.
matter is energy. So really, we're made up of 99.99% energetics. And when
Yeah.
we put all those cells together, all that matter forms a body or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But science tells us that each cell can be directly affected by the cell beside it.
Mm.
So when
Right.
we have two people standing beside each other, if the cells are that different energetically, they will start to affect each other. Hence the reason they say, what's the quote? You become the 5 people that you surround yourself with.
Yes. Yeah.
That is exactly why, right? Because you start, even
Mm-hmm.
on a subconscious energetic level, changing each other. That's why they also say with science, the longer that you're with your partner, you start to look like them a little bit.
Yeah.
It's like weirdly
Totally.
happens, but that is why, because your cell
Mm-hmm.
structure starts to change. So here's
Yeah.
the thing as well, your cells also magnetize. And this is why when we talk about, say, relationships, if we have a habit of attracting bad people or people that are not good for us,
Mm.
we don't just attract them once. We attract them over and over and over again because there's something that's
Yeah.
within our cellular level that is attracting that to us. And that's when we get to do the mirror work and going, okay, this is what's showing in our external reality. It's mirroring me somehow. What
Yeah.
is it within me that is attracting that reality to my world?
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't mean that you're a horrible person. It doesn't mean that you're a narcissist,
No.
but it means that there's some part of you that's attracting that. And most
Yeah.
of the time, it's because there is something familiar in that
Mm-hmm.
person. And it could be attracting that guy that always puts you down or not being good enough because that is actually a familiar state from what you had in your father.
Mm-hmm.
Like, where's that 2%, Terry? Right?
Right.
And then you get the husband
Right.
that goes, how come you didn't get the promotion, Terry?
Mm. Yeah.
Right? Why
Yeah.
aren't you doing this? Why aren't you getting that? Why didn't you get the raise this year? Why
Right.
aren't you getting more clients? And it's always
Yeah.
focusing on what you could get, but that you don't get, rather than
Mm-hmm.
that was a perfect 95%. Right? You
Yeah.
did well.
Totally.
Your
Yeah.
your business is growing. It's like, because the
Mm-hmm.
reality is it's never where we want it to be, right? So that's end up
Yeah.
why we attract the same kind of, they say, what, we marry our father,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
But that is
Yeah.
why.
Totally. Yeah. It's familiar.
So yeah, our cells
Yeah.
hold a lot of information that kinesiology through the muscle testing can tap into really well. So it takes me as
So
a
interesting.
practitioner out of guessing what we need to work
Mm-hmm.
on. It's like, yes,
So
because
interesting.
especially when it comes to business, like
Yeah.
I see business as a very much a personal development journey, right? It
Yeah.
shows
For
up a
sure.
lot of our beliefs, our values that do not work for us.
Yeah.
But it ends up to be, what's the priority that we need to start with? And that's where muscle testing works well.
So cool. That's so
It
cool.
is.
Yeah. So I'm also curious about, because you talked about how you got into hypnotherapy from kinesiology, but how did you get into doing all of this? What was your path to finding this work?
Do you know, I used to be a fashion designer for 20 years.
Wow.
And I loved my job. I
Mm-hmm.
loved it. Right? It was my
Yeah.
dream job that I wanted when I was at high school. And I made
Yeah.
it happen. And it was one day I had a car accident coming home from work and I sprained my spine.
Mm.
So I was off work for a
Oh.
little while I was healing. And my naturopath at the time said to me, "Why don't you go and see this girl? I think she can help you." She's a kinesiologist, and I'd never heard of what a kinesiologist was at this time.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, he said she can help me. I'll go suss it out. So I went there and she put me on the table. Terry, I walked out of there with zero pain.
Amazing.
It was so good.
Yeah.
And so throughout the years, I went to see her for different things, for mental stuff to help me with, going through corporate, through gut health stuff and things like that. And as one day she said to
Mm-hmm.
me, "You could do this." And I'm like, was so dismissive of her. I'm like, "I love my work. Like, there's no way." I'm like, "Thanks
Yeah.
for the tip. I'm glad you think I could." I'm like, "Not my jam." Anyway, after I had kids, or as I was having kids, my mentality on a lot of things changed. Whether it was I wanted to give
Mm-hmm.
them, the best food when they started eating. I wanted to give them the best water. And I started to be really conscious about my
Mm-hmm.
health and well-being. As someone also that suffered from postnatal depression, like I wanted to
Yeah.
change my world because it just wasn't working for me. Corporate was turning me into a horrible person that I didn't want to be. It was turning me into
Mm-hmm.
like this angry, bitchy woman that, talk about base stress line high, it was so high. So anything little would aggravate
Wow.
me and I'd come at it with an angry tone. So I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't like this person I'm becoming. I want to change. So I studied kinesiology when my little one was 6 months old.
Wow.
And I went, let's see how it goes. And I
Yeah.
think what shifted me was I used to have eczema ever since I was really little. I actually don't know when it started, but I remember being one of those kids that had crusty eczema on their legs, and it was like embarrassing and
Oh.
horrible, and it hurt. And
Yeah.
I came into a clinic one day for one of my training sessions, and I was
Mm-hmm.
breastfeeding. I was stressed. I'd put too much on my plate. My eczema had flared up and I was exhausted. And so my teacher could clearly
Yeah.
see this as I walked in. And he's like, "How about we get you on the table?" And I'm like, "Yes, please." I should have
Wow.
taken a photo of my eczema on my arms because they were red. By the end of that, I think he would have only worked on me for maybe half an hour. The redness had gone.
Mm-hmm.
By This was on a Friday. By the Monday, there was no eczema, so no rashes, no bumps, anything. And
Wow.
Terry, I had not got it back ever since. And that was over 10 years ago.
Amazing.
So I'm
Wow.
like, oh, there's something about this I really love.
Mm-hmm.
And even my very first client, which was a case study that I started working with when I was studying, was a girlfriend's son. And I think at the time he might have been 7 or 8. And he hadn't grown for a few years. So he was starting to get quite
Wow.
short against his peers. And I said to her, "Well,
Yeah.
let's try it as a case study and see what happens." Within a
Mm-hmm.
couple of weeks, he started to grow, even just little bits.
Wow.
And I think we ended up doing 3 or 4 months on him, if not a little bit more. And he caught up to all his peers in his growth.
Oh, wow. That's amazing.
It was so good. And so the results that we were getting with
Yeah.
people were fantastic. And then started to get into it
Hmm.
professionally. I started helping little babies sleep through the night by
Yeah.
working with birth trauma. We started
Hmm.
doing a lot of gut health stuff. People with pre-diabetes, bringing them back to
Mm.
normal health. I had one guy with literally used to get a migraine every 2 days for his whole life, and he was approaching his
Wow.
50s at this stage. 2 sessions, and he stopped having migraines altogether. Women's periods, regulating them within a couple of sessions. Like, the results that we were getting were just phenomenal.
Hmm.
And then coming into business, like seeing women come from no streams of income to multiple streams of income, women that wanted to leave their abusive husbands but couldn't because they weren't financially had anything under their name,
Yeah.
helping them build their business to, 6 figures, where they were so comfortable creating options for themselves. Like,
Hmm.
I've realized how life-changing this could all be in so many facets. And I think this is why
Yeah.
there's a level of addiction that I get towards it, because of how it can literally shift people's worlds.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's what I love. And that's
Hmm.
why I look at myself, and I try and look for me as, when I'm 80, when I'm 70, what do I want to do?
Hmm.
Because I know I'm not the kind of person that can just sit on the couch reading books, or
No.
like, I need to do something. I'm like, you know what?
Hmm.
I can see myself continually to do this.
Yeah.
I know how to protect my energy where it doesn't drain me anymore. I
Hmm.
know the kind of people that I want to help. Like,
Yeah.
seeing women become financially free
Yeah.
from struggle, like, that is so rewarding to watch the process.
Yeah.
I've got one client at the moment. She's a single mum, and she was juggling jobs, or 2 jobs, her job and her business, just to try and make ends meet. We took her from
Wow.
$2,000 to $15,000 a month.
Oh, that's
Like, that's
amazing.
an extra $12,000 per month. Like, that changes someone's life.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, like, that, I don't know, it lights me up in so many different ways. And it
Hmm.
makes me really thankful to have tools like this that can literally create that change. Because at the end of the day, it's
Yeah.
not me, it's the application of the tools
Hmm.
that do it. It's being able to tap
Right.
into your body and go, what do you need? It's giving you the ability to see
Hmm.
life from a different lens.
Yeah.
It enables you to see what is possible for you. And sometimes that only happens in incremental stages, right?
Hmm.
It's, how do we take someone from suffering into a thriving mode? It's a gradual process. It's
Yeah.
step by step. And every step of the way, you see new possibilities. And
Yeah.
that day where you go, you know what, Jennifer, take me to 50K. Like, you could never have seen that from day one. There's an
Right.
element of us that knows it's possible on some level,
Hmm.
but it's sitting in that belief. And the belief is as true as, I'm going to the fridge to grab a glass of milk, right?
Right. Wow.
It's like, that's
Yeah.
the difference that we can make.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
it
What do
ends
you
up to
think it
be
is?
mm,
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. You go
ends
ahead.
up to be, where do you want to go? Where do you
Right.
want to take
Yeah.
this?
Yeah.
How much do you want to grow?
Hmm.
And it's
So
limitless. It's endless.
Yeah. Yeah, and you had mentioned about like you've talked about doing things sort of incrementally and taking things step by step. How do you know, and I don't know if you can even answer this, but how do you know like what is the right like how much can a person handle? So if they're looking at making more money, like what is the threshold for them of what they can handle as that next level?
Everyone's different, right?
Hmm.
Some people can only handle $500 extra a month. I had one girl that I was taking up by $100 a month, right? Because that's all she can
Wow.
handle. The difference ends up to be is how do you think you can make the next increment? And if you don't know,
Mm,
it's too much for you, right?
right.
Now, so it doesn't mean that you won't get the strategy, like, because
Hmm.
strategy can come in just like that. Any aha moment can happen. Anything you see that goes, oh my God, that's exactly what I need. Or someone might come across your
Yeah.
world that goes, I'm a great strategic coach for helping women get 50K months. Um, but it's what your beliefs can get behind. So
Okay.
if you sitting here going, okay, I want $1 million business, and you're like, one, I have no idea how I'm going to do it. Two, when
Hmm.
I feel, I can't even feel into the $1 million energy wise. Like when you say,
Right.
when ask people to go, okay, picture a day in your life of you earning that money, of you
Hmm.
at that level. Sometimes I can't even do that because it's so far fetched
Yeah.
for them. So you're like, all right, let's bring it back. What's your next increment? How
Mm-hmm.
does your body
Mm-hmm.
feel at at 50K? How does your body feel at 10? How does it feel at 7? How does it feel at 5? Kinesiology wise, I can just test it,
Yeah.
right? But even sometimes I'll test it at say $1,000 and they're like, I want to go to 5. So we'll go
Mm.
to 5. We'll work it at 5 because that's what they feel that they want.
Okay.
And so it might take us a little bit longer because there'll be more barriers that we don't cognitively, consciously see yet, right?
Yeah.
Because some people that are less aware than others, because awareness is such a big scale, right? You have some people that walk into your clinic and they're so aware. They know their blocks, they know their patterns of behavior, and
Mm-hmm.
they can go, Terry, I need to work on this, right? And then there are
Yeah.
some that they really believe that their next step is a lot further than what their body can regulate. So part of it gets to be, all right, let's not necessarily work on the goal, but work on increasing the awareness through the goal.
Mm-hmm.
So it's okay, let's start working on the goal. And through that time, you'll come to the realization that, all right, I know that I have a fear of stepping into that level. I know that I don't feel good enough even at, 2K more. So sometimes
Yeah.
we really have to play with what is the first point of call? Is the first point of call jumping to the goal or helping them with their level of awareness so then they can see the obstacles towards that?
Right.
So it all goes to what our
Amazing.
nervous system can handle. And
Mm-hmm.
then, like, even when they get the goal, how does your nervous system feel receiving the money, holding the money, spending the money, saving the money?
Yeah.
Because they're all different things again.
Right.
And so if we don't feel safe holding it, it'll come in and go
Mm-hmm.
out. It'll come in, we'll
Yep.
try and save it, a bill will come in, right?
Yep.
So our bodies and our energies have a really good way of keeping us safe.
Mm-hmm.
Our brains are designed to keep us safe, not to help us thrive.
Yeah.
So we need to rewire our belief systems, our energy, to be at that next level in all facets of life.
Right.
How will my partner perceive me? How will my friends perceive me? And a lot of us will go, I don't
Mm-hmm.
care about that. And we don't care until we do.
Yeah, for
Right?
sure.
I thought the same thing, Terry. And I remember
Mm-hmm.
walking into, so this house here, I moved into when I was a single mum. And it's the most beautiful house I've ever lived in, even as a child. Better than the family home. So I was so
Wow.
proud of myself, and I built my business being a single mum and
Mm-hmm.
got into this house, and it was like the dream come true. And I had a friend walk in, and the look on her face, Terry, I was like, oh my God, I'm just about to lose her. You could see the jealousy
Oh,
set in.
oh
And it was
no.
horrible. It was so horrible that she
Mm-hmm.
could not be happy for me. And
Wow.
I did not in any way, shape, or form predict that. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
yep, I'm a single mum. I'm doing my best. I'm building my business. I'm
Yeah.
building a life for myself. I'm doing it better than I expected. People are just going to be happy for me.
Mm.
Not necessarily true, right? You can't
Yeah.
predict how other people are going to react. So
Mm-hmm.
that's when, okay, I get to look inside me. How do I feel at this level? Can I sustain it? If
Mm-hmm.
I grow or continue at this level, will I continue to lose people in my life? And how do I feel about that?
Right.
So all these things come up. Sometimes
Mm-hmm.
it's not about just the money, but it's everything that the money brings. Because money does bring
Yeah.
change. It has to, because you have to change. The level that you are at now brings in your current reality. So to go and bring in one thing different, you have to change, which brings in a whole new reality in other ways.
Yeah.
So the question ends up being is, what are you willing to let go of to
Mm.
receive what you want?
Yeah. I have
And
lost people in my life at every level of growth.
yeah,
Every time. Yeah.
but have you also gained?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Definitely. But it was, but I remember the first time it happened was a shock because it was
Mm.
like what you were describing. Like I did not expect these relationships to leave my life. They were my three closest friendships, and they all within within weeks just disappeared.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it is. It's almost like a flash. And you're like, what
Yeah.
just happened?
That was exactly it. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
What just happened? Um, and they were replaced very quickly with new, more supportive people who were aligned with my new
Yeah.
stage in life. And that's happened every level of the way.
Love that.
Yeah.
And see, this is the thing. It's
Mm-hmm.
like once we realize what's happening, we can
Yeah.
adjust ourselves and our nervous systems accordingly. So instead of sitting in the
Mm-hmm.
lack and the grief and the loss, it goes, oh, I understand what's happening here. I'm up leveling. My beliefs are up leveling or shifting.
Yeah.
Therefore, I need to let go of stuff. That stuff could be people,
Mm-hmm.
and I will gain others along the way. Sometimes they'll
Right.
happen straight away. Sometimes there might be a little gap. Right? And that's where they, the loneliness of entrepreneurial world can set in. It's
Yeah.
in that gap.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And I was even thinking about this the other day, the depth of conversations that I can have with some people that I just can't have with
Yeah.
others. It's like, all right, so these beautiful people are my new world. But there's
Yes.
also that expectation for, and this goes into the support that I was talking about earlier with one of the biggest blocks that hold business owners back is how supported they feel. Is not
Mm-hmm.
everyone in our world needs to be our everything.
No.
So I have some great
No.
people that are great to go out to dinner with, right? And they're
Mm-hmm.
fun and then we have a good time, but I can't go into depth with them. And then there's people
Yeah.
that are just, you could talk for hours like you and I are talking, and we can talk about human behavior and spirituality and the depth of life. And it's
Mm-hmm.
just ultimately amazing,
Yeah.
right? So, and then there are other people that will support you in your business strategy. And there are people that you can share your wins with. And as every business owner will know, there's also people that you can't share your wins with.
Yes. Yep.
And we can't get bogged down in the people that we can't share stuff with because they don't get it, and that's okay.
No. Yeah.
So it's to remind
I
ourselves that
remember,
everyone can't be everything.
yeah, that's such a good point. I remember at one point, like in tears, crying to my coach and being like, I have you and I have my husband and I pay you. Like, you're my only friend and I pay you to talk to me. And he was like,
Yeah.
welcome to growth. This is how it goes.
I feel
And
like
that's what
we've
it
all
was
had that
for
teary moment.
yeah, there was like a period of time where I had my husband to talk to, I had my coach, and there was no one else in my life, like other than acquaintances, clients. That was it.
Yeah.
It felt very lonely.
And then sometimes even your clients become your friends because
Yeah.
you've got a
Oh yeah.
commonality.
Mm-hmm.
I get it. And I
Yeah.
think, yeah, we've all had those moments where we've had that teary moment to our coaches and feel like, oh my God, I'm paying my friend to be my friend.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's like they're the
And
only
that's
person I can share my wins with and can help me through my losses. But yeah, and until you get
totally.
to a next level where you can create some stability and new people come into your
Mm-hmm.
world.
Yeah.
I think the important thing there is stay open to the possibility of meeting new people that are more aligned to you.
For
Because I
sure.
think sometimes when we see a lot of people around us not supporting us, not understanding us, we can't share our wins with, we can't cry our losses
Mm-hmm.
to, that we start to close off.
Yeah.
So it's like, don't worry, stay open and the right people will come.
Mm-hmm.
You might not
Definitely.
know how, but they'll enter your world
Mm-hmm.
in such a beautiful way. And they all
Yeah.
do.
Oh, for
And I
sure. For
think
sure.
that's when you realize as well that you don't need a lot of good friends.
Mm-hmm.
Just that small handful of people that understand you
Yeah.
and your journey and can relate to you. It's like you don't need a lot
Mm-hmm.
of them.
Yeah.
Nor do you have time for a lot of them.
No. No, for sure. Definitely. Well, I feel like we could talk forever,
I agree.
but we should probably do need to wrap up. So, how do people work with you? So, if
How to put
for those listening, how do they work with you?
So I have two ways to work with me at the moment. I do most of my sessions one-on-one. So a
Mm-hmm.
lot of my clients work with me over a minimum of a 6-month period and to get the results that they want. Most of my clients have been with me for years. Or we do
Nice.
what I call Voxer support. So Voxer is a chat communications app and we can do stuff over there. So I have some girls that purely do Voxer with me, and then I have girls that do Voxer alongside one-on-ones with me. So Voxer is really good for people, say, for example, like yourself, Terry, that know how to create the change, but just want that deeper insight into what they're going through. So a lot of my Voxer
Nice.
only clients are coaches themselves that
Mm-hmm.
can do the work, but yeah, need the insight and want the muscle testing behind, all right, tell me what my priority is right now
Mm-hmm.
to get me to those 10K months, to get me to those 50K months. And that's the way that I
Yeah.
work with a lot of my clients. It's like, where do you want to go? So you can find me, I'm mainly on Instagram. I'm there,
Nice.
come to my DMs, let's chat, all that sort of stuff.
Perfect. Great. And I'll have all of your links in the show notes. So for those listening, you can find Jennifer there and follow her Instagram. Thank you so much for coming on today. I really appreciate this conversation. I think you have given so much value and so much expertise. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Terry.